Okay, so today we have chassis number 7 and 8 for the game gallery up in Pennsylvania. Chassis number 9 is this K7000 that they sent that apparently was arcing to the board here. The flyback was arcing to the actual PCB there. Unfortunately, I don't have a 7000 flyback on hand. I used the last one I had on a few chassis back, if I recall correctly, but I thought I had more, but I don't, so I can't fix that one until I get that on order and some other stuff. But I'm probably not going to actually shoot a video on this because, as you know, I've got hundreds of 7000 videos, so unless something haywire goes wrong with it, I'm just not going to show that one. But I'll get it fixed up and show it to the owner of these before I send them back so he knows it's working. That's kind of the reason I'm making these videos anyway. So that'll be that's number 9. This is chassis number 9 we're not going to do a video on. So this will just be the last part, which is 7 and 8, chassis number 7 and 8. And they're two K7500s. This one here is complete, but this one here is missing the remote board. It's marked here with Cruise, C-R-U-I-S-E, so it must have come out of a cruise in USA. But it's missing the remote board, which we can use the one from this one, no big deal. I kind of want to start with this one because what's interesting is that this capacitor here has exploded out the top there, wide open. Then there's this one here that is bulging and about to pop itself as well. So we got some issues we have to figure out. I think it's been shorting HOTs because somebody has tried to fix this in a manner where they changed out U701. They have replaced C119, which might have been bad in the first place, causing HOTs to short. They have changed some caps, but not all of them. They've changed these two, and this one, but all the rest of these, oh, and these 3, 4. They've changed some of the caps, but not all the caps. And of course, like all of these, the linearity coil is broken off the magnet there, which I can glue that back on. The U101 switch mode power supply IC is in a socket, so it might have had power supply problems too. So, I mean, who knows? The R104 is missing a leg in there, part of the leg, and it's too close to the board. If we look in there, you can kind of see how that part of the leg there is missing. So somebody had, oh, in this one too. Wow, both of them right there. So somebody has removed an R104 from something else, I think, and another chassis, and put this in here. And let me show you here real quick that the solder joint here is broken off, or the trace is lifted. So all kinds of craziness happening with this. So the first thing I really want to do is replace the caps in the power supply section, fix up this R104, and then I want to just see if our power supply section is intact, and we'll get to this one next. So I'll just set that aside for now, along with this 7000, and I'm going to disconnect our neck board. And of course, like every one of these, the color transistors are all bashed around, and somebody has put some I don't know if it's epoxy or hot snot or something on there, but it's going to be fun trying to get that stuff off to be able to fix this. But so this is all destroyed. That was a issue with shipping causing that. And of course, these were also dirty as hell. I had to wash these before I could even attempt to work on them. But I want to cap this power supply first after we do a little bit of an inspection, because that's exploded. And I can't recall that. Usually this one here is the one that explodes, or this one. Either one of these two are notorious for blowing up, but maybe someone overlooked this one, or I don't know. But we're going to have to change out at least that cap. It looks like the 22 microfarad one's been replaced as well. So I think what I want to do is probably we can get away with just changing this one, and then fixing up R104, and then trying our light bulb test and just see if our power supply section is working. They've changed out C126 also. So it looks like all the power supply all the power supply caps have been replaced except for this one. I'm not sure how they changed them all, but except for this one, but that's what they did. But let's take a look here on the bottom. It definitely has had a lot of work. Someone has reflowed the flyback. They've reflowed what looks like every solder joint in, every solder joint in the power supply section. And obviously U701's been changed out. Oh, well, that's not good. Somebody changed out this cap, and in doing so, they broke. This could have been a casualty of shipping also, but this cap right here, the leg is busted off. Someone left that leg way too long or something, and it popped the trace off, which we'll have to fix that later. But it's not going to affect our power supply testing. So let's get this one cap replaced here. That's out. That's the 470 if I recall correctly. Yeah, 470 microfarad. Do I have any 470s on hand without having to break into? I don't. Yeah. This is a 35 volt. Yeah, I only have on hand are 16 volt 470. So let me grab a cap kit here. I'll need one anyway. Let's see. U2000, Panorex Polo, 4900, Neotex, 20EZ. Those polos, yeah. This 4600, Mortal Kombat 2, Neotex again. I think these are K7000s. Oh no, here we go. Nice, okay. Let's grab a 470. Nope. If I wasn't completely anti-dexterous and throwing these all around here. How come there it is, 35 volt 470. We'll put that puppy right there, make sure it's not in backwards, and it's not. Push it flat to the board. Alright, so with that replaced, let's go through and do some testing on this. I mean, it's not crucial or critical that this R104 is missing two parts of its legs there, but I'm not sure why somebody would do that. You see there that it's missing the two legs. I mean, it's not a big deal, but we do kind of need to fix it. And it seems okay. I wonder, they look a little oxidized, so let's grab our scratch pin here and clean these up a bit. Alright, I think that should work. And I'd like this to sit up off the board a little bit more than it was, but I think that should be okay. I was going to say it's not critical, but this generates a lot of heat, and it's always nice to have components that generate heat to be up off the board and not like all the way flush sitting on the board. So I'm going to try and make this to where it's the best outcome. Alright, that should work. Okay. So let's go through here and do some testing on this. It's been a little while, but still should be able to showcase this. So R104 should be around anywhere between 10K to 13K is acceptable range. And this one reads 9.8K. Okay, that's good. Somebody has damaged the input here. It's not sitting flat on the board either. So we'll see if we can heat this up real quick, make it sit flat. There we go, that's better. Not sure how that happened, but I got sidetracked there when I spotted that. All right. So we should be getting 10K, which we did. Usually this is about all you really need to check, because if this is reading 10K, then everything else should be somewhat okay. Most of the time, if you read this and it's reading way out of spec, like, you know, 35K or some odd number, then there's something else wrong in the power supply. But if this reads correct, then you can kind of take it with a grain of salt that everything in the power supply is actually going to be okay and not shorted. So we'll go ahead and take that as read. Now let's just make sure C121 and C119 here aren't shorted. So just to make sure we can, here's C119 and we get 4K, that's fine. And then C121, somebody has completely butchered that all up. No, they've butchered the cap. Jeez. Well, here's C121, mega ohm, yeah. Do I have that backwards? No, yeah, it's backwards. This is 119 that someone has replaced with the poly cap. Well, they're both poly cap, but I mean, the other one's like more of a film cap, I guess. But and then one, yeah, and that's here. And then 121 meg ohm. Yeah. So actually, yeah, it's these two. I thought so. Yeah, the C121 is, you know, 1 meg ohm. So it's early Friday morning right now for me, so you have to bear with me until I get my bearings here, as LA Beast would say. I got to get my bearings straight. So let's remove the L100 inductor from the circuit. Now we'll isolate the power supply output from the rest of the board. The L100 there, you lift one leg out. Actually, this leg, you lift out, either one. But if you lift out the other leg, you won't be able to attach a meter or anything to it. So take this leg out of the board. This will isolate our power supply, is the only thing that's going to get powered up. The rest of the board here will not, so we can safely work on this on the bench here without fear of high voltage energization. So what I'm interested in here is whether or not this will power up, because if we can get our power supply working, that's kind of a load off of our mind if this has other issues. I need why is that always missing? I don't know. My for somehow, some way, some reason, my black meter leads are always missing, and I'm not sure why. We'll clip on that. Put a volts DC. Clip on that. We'll clip on ground, and we'll go to our vertical IC ground. And we'll get our 60 watt incandescent light bulb, which is an analog for the CRT, close enough to give us around 117 volts DC is what we're looking for our B+. And okay, I think that is it. Let's just see if our power supply section works and what we get. So 1, 2, 3. Oh. Something was making a very odd noise there, like it was underwater. But our power supply is not working because we have 171 volts. We should have 117 volts. Something is not right. The MOSFET works because it came on. If the MOSFET was shorted or bad, we wouldn't get any light bulb at all. But we're getting 170 volts. Yeah, 171 volts. That's not correct. Something is wrong. So I know that our switch mode power supply IC is good because it turns on. We know our MOSFET's okay because it turns on. But why do we have 171 volts? It should be 117. There's some component in this circuit that's not good. Let me go through and cap. I'm going to go through and cap. That's 100, correct? This one should be 22. And it's not. That's 30. No, that's correct. 33. Yeah, it's 33. So those two caps are correct. They don't appear to be in backwards. We put C127 in there correctly. Well, let me go through and see what I can figure out, because 171 volts, yeah, that's not correct. And I've never seen more glue on the B plus pot in my life than this one. I wonder what's the load on the circuit without the load. I wonder what's the B plus read without a load on the circuit at all. 300 volts. Holy crap! Holy crap! Something is very wrong. Wow. Holy crap. Well, let's get this stuff out of the way. Wow. $313 volts. Did you guys see that? That was insane. Holy crikey. 313 volts. Jeez. Is this a 50 volt one? That's what I think that should be. Of course, I can't see it. And I can't tell. Can't tell on that. We verified it's 22 microfarad. The resistor's okay. These two caps aren't shorted. And they're just for really the output. There has to be a reason why that cap exploded too. Let's check these diodes. These diodes here. I don't think that's the right diode for in here. Now that I look at this, well, I guess it is. I was thinking that was the wrong type of diode there. That is just weird. Let's just check this MOSFET. We should get 0.5 voltage drop to one leg and like 1.0 to the other. So black lead, I think, on the top. Yeah, there's our 0.5. Other leg should be 1.0. Yeah, so as suspected, MOSFET seems fine. I'm just looking over some solder joints here. Since this was replaced. Okay, that all seems fine. Nothing shorted there, shorted there, shorted there, shorted there. This all, visually, this all seems okay. What does our B plus pot read? 330 ohms. Okay, that's fine. I think it's a 1K pot, I think, if I recall correctly. So it could be 2K, but I think it's 1K. Interesting. Well, I mean, the power supply section works, but something is very wrong, and I'm not sure really what it could be. This might take a deep dive on this, and I don't want a 2-hour video here, so I may just poke around until I find the culprit, and then I'll just do a review of what we found, because that might be just the easiest thing to do. These, if I remember, should be like 33K, these two resistors in here. Around 30K or something. Okay, yeah, 50K, yeah, those are fine. Yep, those are fine. That's fine. These two diodes here are fine. We knew the rectifier diodes would be okay because our fuse didn't blow. I don't visually see any issues. Well, I think I want to change out the rest of the caps. This one, that one, and this one. I don't know if that's part of the power supply or not, but I'll change these 4 caps, do some more poking around here, because that's not right. These are on the output. Don't need to mess with those. So are C121 and C19. I wonder if our transformer's cooked somehow, because that could be part of the problem. It could also just simply be a bad IC here. Let me play around, see what I can find, and when I find the culprit, I'll come back. In the sake of having a shorter video, let me find out what the problem is in our power supply section, get that fixed, come back, detail that, and we'll proceed on from there. Alright, well, it was just bad caps. I changed out the other caps. I changed out the 250-100, the 250-33, the 50-volt one, and the 100-volt 22. And after changing those 4 caps, check it out. 122. And without a load on the circuit, we get 180 something. So that's more like it. And 122, so we're going to have to cut that glue off, or probably just change that. I'm not going to be able to probably break that loose. I'll try. But now we're good. So we just had bad caps. So I'm not sure if one of the other caps failed that took this one out, or this one failed which made these work over. I'm not sure. I darted through them in the garbage, but one of those 4 caps was bad. So bad caps in the power supply was causing that huge 313 volts, whatever it was. So yeah, so that's now resolved. Yes, it didn't, usually when this reads to 10K, everything's okay. Now that's not going to read through the caps. It'll read through other various passive components, resistors, diodes, and stuff like that. If the MOSFET was bad, obviously our fuse would short. But if you have open resistors, bad resistors, shorted diodes, you'll see that reading through on R104. Something will be very odd with that. So with that now solved, I'm going to have to see if I can break this loose. So let's say you have a situation like this where you need to turn the B plus pot, but it's covered in glue. Get yourself some diagonal cutters here that have the sharp flush cut tips. These are like $8 on Amazon or something like that. Play-Doh. Just look for Play-Doh, P-L-A-T-O, diagonal cutters or flush cuts, you'll find them. But instead of trying to cut around, you just kind of snip across the top. So if we put our cutters on top here, just kind of do something like this. A lot of times that glue will snap and keep that pot intact. But I don't think this is going to be successful. Hopefully it is, but we'll see here. It's just, I've never seen so much glue caked on this, and I don't for the life of me know why. So there's a little bit I just broke off, so that's good. And then we can kind of keep going at this, chipping away, chipping away, chipping away, chipping away, chipping away now. Hey, there we go. There's a big piece came off. Hey, so now we have all of it off the top. Will it move? Let's take our flush cuts here and go around the outside, see if it'll move. Yes! We successfully did it, boys and girls! There's all the broken pieces there. And it moves. You can clearly see it's pointing roughly about, I don't know, 2 o'clock. I can turn it to 3 o'clock. So let's go back to about 1 o'clock. Now that we can turn that, we'll hook this all back up. Let's see here. One goes here. One goes there. One goes here. One goes there. All right, so now we'll back out. And let's see what we get now. 1, 2, 3. Negative 120. I got my leads backwards here. We'll just flip them around here, it'll be easier. So let's give this a try. Here we go, 1, 2, 3. All right, 121. We're looking for about 117. Actually about 118, because once it gets to hooked up to an actual CRT, it's going to be closer to 117 if we put this around 118. So I'm going to take this very carefully. I'm not using a screwdriver because there's glue down inside of the actual adjustment top there, so I can't get a screwdriver in there. So we're just using our cutters here very carefully to turn this down to about 118 or so. We'll do 118.4. We'll go with that. 118.4. Boom. Okay. Power supply repaired. Just bad caps. All right. Even though those caps had been replaced, I think they might have been overstressed or something because they didn't change that 470, and I think that might have put the other ones in high stress mode or something, and it just made them fail. Or I have no idea on the exact circumstance, but that's my hypothesis. And until someone can prove it and make it a theory, then I'll go with that. So now it's going to come down to further inspection, recapping and reflowing the whole board, and then testing. So I need to glue this back on, but that's going to be a last minute thing. So with our power supply fixed, let me put this inductor back in because I always forget that. Okay. Let's do a little bit more inspecting. There is this one cap. I wonder if maybe they tried to run this without the remote board hooked up. I hope not. But I think it might have also been shorting out HOTs, because this is not a 3688. This is an NTE 2354. So that's not original. And somebody has, replaced C119, which usually you only do if it goes bad because it's shorting HOTs. If HOTs are shorting on these series of chassis, It's very common to have C119, C121 be shorted, which kills the horizontal output and takes the HOT out. So I'm wondering if we just simply have a more situation here of bad caps, or another situation here of more bad caps, is the way I meant to say that, along with the wrong type of HOT. So I'm going to do the cap kit. I'm going to change this out to an FJL6920. The FJL6920 is a much more robust and better HOT. It's able to handle more oscillation issues, and if there's other fairly components on the brink of not being somewhat correct, it'll still compensate, so to speak, and still allow the chassis to run without failing like the cheaper ones do. Like the current C3688s that are out there are really not very robust, and you can short them out. You put one in, it shorts, another one, you shorts. So you spend hours and hours trying to figure out what's wrong with the chassis. Nothing's wrong with it. Can't find anything. You put an FJL6920 in, and it works just fine. So the current C3688s, I just don't have any confidence in them. So get yourself an FJL6920, and you'll be good. Okay, so this transistor here is responsible for your vertical position. If you go to adjust your vertical position and nothing happens, this transistor is either bad or it has busted solder joints, because it's very common to have this thing be wiggling loose and it busts the solder joints on the back of the board. But that seems okay. And like I say, somebody has replaced all the caps around here except for this one. It looks like the original 1500 microfarad is still in there. All these have been replaced except for that one. Why not? Yeah, it looks like they've all been replaced except for that one. Why? I don't know. Okay, so I guess that's the top doesn't really show anything. Someone has changed out U701 again, I think probably because it had power supply problems. Usually if U701 is faulty, or Q80 or 703, is it 703? It's been too long. Yeah, if Q703 or U701 are bad, that'll prevent the board from turning on. So I think because it had the power supply problems, I think they might have tried to change out U701 in vain. And I'm hoping they don't have horizontal oscillation problems, because this chip here is responsible for your sync and things like that. So they might have sync problems too. I'm hoping not, but we're not going to know until we cap it, reflow it, and power it up. Looking at the back here, it all seemed okay except for that one that one trace we got to fix up here, which I'll do when I change that cap out, and I'll show that off. So I'm going to go ahead and just do the cap kit, the reflow, the cleaning, and then we'll come back and show it off, and I will try to get this tested. But before I do that, let's take a look at this neck board, because this is going to be fun trying to get all fixed up here. When I wash these chassis, I do not wash the neck board. You do not want to get the neck board soaked in water, because it'll allow moisture to get down inside the focus plates here. This neck board has two focus plates, and it's like a gap in there, and the focus voltage will jump across the gap in the plates and create your focus voltage. And if it gets corroded in there from water ingression, you'll never have functional focus again without changing out the neck socket. So I don't wash these under the water. I just kind of give them a little brushing, get all the dust and dirt off, and that's all you really need to do. And I also need to wipe these pots back and forth. They get so I spray some contact cleaner here. These actual pots get very scratchy, and you have to get the contact cleaner under pressure down inside these contacts here to get it down inside the pot, because it's sealed up, and the only place that's exposed that you can get this in are back here on the contacts. And we'll set these to the drive pots we put in the center position. But the bias pots are only about a quarter. The 7400 and the 7500 don't like to have the bias pots turned up more than about a quarter intensity, but the U2000 and the U5000 like to have them about half intensity. So there's a learning curve with a lot of this stuff sometimes. And this contact cleaner is like alcohol, it dries in the air when it's exposed to air. So, okay, so now that I've done that, we're going to take these and set them to about a quarter intensity. So that's all the way up, that's all the way down, up, down, up, down. So if we zoom in here, you can see that's all the way down. What I want to do is put these to about a quarter, so roughly there, there, and there. That's about where you want them to be. It's hard to see, but so these, the drive pot's about half, the bias pot's about a quarter, and you kind of adjust from there. So that's how we do that. So when it comes to these resistors here, I like to set them out to where there's equidistant here, because you don't want these to be touching each other, because if they're touching each other they will induce heat onto the other one and they'll shorten the lifespan significantly. So you want to keep those about separated like that. Now when it comes to fixing these neck transistors, the best advice I can give you is just remove them completely. Remove them completely from the board and just start fresh from scratch. Let's take some denatured alcohol here and see if we can remove this epoxy. It looks like RTV, and yeah, I just lifted that trace completely off trying to do this. That's why I hate these stupid things. Or I don't know why they put RTV on this stuff. It just, I will never understand. Okay, there we go. I'm gonna have to do some trace repair on this anyway, so this one's lifted completely off and broken. I just did that now trying to get this off of here, but it doesn't ultimately matter because this all has to be fixed anyway once we get this RTV off of here. I think that's what this is, like a clear high temp RTV or high temp silicone. That's what this is, and I'm half tempted to just kind of try to use the iron here on this. Yeah, see, that came out. Only one of these was even soldered in. One leg anyway was even soldered in. You can see here that this one just wasn't even soldered. It just, the leg came right out. Right. That one right there, the leg just came right out. It wasn't even soldered to the transistor. Just pulled it right out. So in an attempt to try and avoid breaking any more of these traces, let's just see if I can. No, this is some type of high temp RTV that I'm gonna have to peel off of here. I don't know why they do this. If you repair this stuff properly, you don't need this stupid RTV on here. There we go. That'll work. I don't know what's going on here. There we go. Okay, there's two of them out. I think this one is completely destroyed also. But we got it. Okay, I realized that out of frame there, but we got it. Okay, there's all three. Now, the fun part begins. We can use the iron here to get rid of the rest of this RTV. Hypothetically. Or just pathetically. Yep, there we go. And I think that should be all we need to get out of there. This is going to be fun trying to fix this disaster. That's why it's easier to just take all these out of here. So if you ever have to fix one of these, please don't use this RTV. Just fix it right, and you won't have to resort to this. Let's see what kind of miracle we can perform here. There's still more of this stupid RTV all over the place. There we go. That should be good enough, but got this trace, see if we can fix this trace here. See if we can flip this around here. Try and reuse it. Alright, I think we can salvage the trace. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, we'll scrape that off, resolder to it. That'll be good. This is it's all twisted around, but it'll work. Okay, I think we can salvage all of this, yeah. Alright, yep, I think we'll be good. First thing we need to do is verify that these actually read correct. I don't want to go through the hassle of installing these and then not have one of them be bad or whatever, so let's go to diode mode, and I think we have to go center leg red to each outer leg. Nope, other way around. 0.6 and open. Trying to remember how this is done here. There we go. Okay, so positive lead all the way to the left, and then center lead should be 0.6, and other side on the right side should be 0.6. Okay, that one's fine. 0.6 and 0.6, 0.6 and 0.6. So those are all fine, or they should be anyway. So we'll start by making sure these are all straight. Seem fine. And this has a little bit of solder in this hole we got to get rid of. There we go. Make sure I can see through all those. Nope. Got some congestion in these. Okay, now they're all clear. So we'll take the first one here and install it, and let's make sure we can get all of our pads through here. There we go. Okay, so let's zoom in a little bit, and those two are through. Let's go ahead and just tack it in real quick. Alright, so if you set these straight and flat, then you don't need to worry about the traces being lifted, because if this gets knocked and hit, you see here, it doesn't move. If you set this too high that way, when this gets hit, it pops the legs off. So if you take these out completely and push these as flat as they can possibly go, if they get hit or whacked, then they won't pop the pads off. So that's pretty straight, and it's not touching any of the other components. You want to make sure it's not, the heat sink's not touching the inductors or the resistors. It'll induce heat, or the transistors here. They'll induce heat onto the other components and make them fail. So that's pretty straight there. So now with that sitting like that, I need to solder it in a little bit better. We'll start with this leg, and that's pretty good. That's sitting flat. And we'll do this one. Get rid of a little of the oxidation on there. Alright, so with those sitting flat on the board, alright, I like that. Now we can try and fix this. Come on, I had it on there earlier. Not sure what the problem with this is, but maybe there's too much solder on it. I can't see what I'm doing, just like you can't see what I'm doing. It's right there. Why won't you go on there? I don't know why. There we go. So that's on there. Go ahead and solder that one on. So there we go. Now we just have to reconnect this trace here, which we can do by scraping off solder mask. Then we can bend that back around and should be able to solder right to it. Just like so. Not pretty, but it'll work. So there's one. And it's going to be fun trying to do the other ones here. So there's one, and it is relatively secure. Don't need to really manhandle it, but that's pretty good. And let's go ahead and clean it up just real quick and try and inspect how it looks just from a quick glance. Okay, that's not bad. I dare say that's about as good as you're going to get for that one. And as we saw there, I mean, it's not perfect, but it's not going to move around on you, and it doesn't wiggle around, and it's straight up and down, it's flush, it's not touching any other components. So it's close to that resistor, but we can move it over slightly. That's better. Okay, so that's about as good as we're going to get for that first one there. So now we can focus on the second one, which again we're going to have to straighten out these legs. Okay, and then this is going to have to go out and bend that like so, and I need to get some of the solder off of here. You want these to go in as straight as possible and not get caught on anything, or you'll pop a pad off that wasn't popped off before. So let's try to get this one in here. And see, look how long these legs are after getting pushed through here. That's when it sits flat. See, look, now that's what you want. You want it to sit flat like that. You don't want it to be 8 miles high. So someone replaced this transistor and didn't do it properly. So there we go. And all of our legs are through the lifted pads there. Yes, it looks terrible, I realize that, but it's not about how it looks, it's about how it functions. Sometimes you can use your tweezers or something to hold the trace down until your solder melts, and then it'll sit flat like that. And we get a different angle on here. You'll see it'll look a bit better than this. So I'm not sure what's going on there, but I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, let's go back to this one again and hold it down. Alright, now let's trim all this off of here. And let's hit these one more time. I want to try to move this out of the way because this one is pretty close to that pad, and I don't know if... There we go. There we go. Okay. Well, those don't look too bad there. Yeah, I mean, that's not too bad. You don't have to go to the extreme of trying to glue these traces back down unless you want to. I mean, for future reference, if you have to replace one of these or something, you can glue these traces back down. You don't have to, but you know, it just a little peace of mind if you want to attach a little super glue on there and glue them back down. I mean, we could do that, but it's not absolutely necessary. So there's two of them fixed, and if we look here, not exactly the same, but still good and solid. This one's a little wobblier because all those pads were lifted pretty well, but this one pretty good. And let's bend this resistor over just a little bit. Okay. And we're not touching any of the other transistors or the components, so there's two down. And yeah, let's try and tackle number 3 now. I think I'll probably glue these down for, like, if in the future one of these go bad and they're at the arcade and they got to change one of these, they can do it without too much worry. But still, they're going to have to know what they're doing, because they can make the situation much worse than it really should be. You know, you can't see what I'm doing here. I'm straightening these up as best I can here. Gonna have to get some of this off of here. Okay, and these are all clear and free, I think. Yep. Alright, now let's see if we can get that to go back on there. Okay. Now I gotta fix this. You gotta be careful because these legs will break off the transistor. I'm thinking about just replacing this one, quite honestly, but let's see if we can get it through here first. Well, there's another one that the back legs go right in. This one is fighting me. There we go. Okay, man. And there you go. So I'm going to shift it over slightly, but make sure it's sitting somewhat close to where it should be. Then we'll solder it in and there we have it. Yeah, they're not perfect, but I mean, they're not, see, that's all you're hoping for is that, so I think that'll work, boys and girls. So let's actually clean this up a little bit just to see how it looks after we get all this flux off of here and blah blah blah. That's about as good as that's going to get. Is it pretty? No. But will it work? Yes. That's all we're interested in. And I'll super glue those back down or whatever once I get this all reflowed and cleaned and wiped down and stuff. So, alright, so now let's check and make sure all of our connections are good. So if we do this again here, alright, how did we do this before? So if we do, is it like this? Okay, 0.6. Oh, actually, let's go to this trace here, and we'll go to here. Okay, 0.6 and 0.6. So all of our traces are good. We actually probably should go to this one. This way. There we go. So let's go to this trace and go over to here. Yep, so that trace is good, and we know that one's good. So that's all good. So now let's go to here to here. Uh-oh. You should be getting... Nope. I think this one is bad. Actually, no, it's not bad. The trace is bad. So, oh, the trace is broken right here. Look at that. The trace is broken right there. Okay, well, let's fix that. See, that's why you test all this stuff. Okay. No wonder that had solder on there. So we'll try that again here. We'll go, what was it? Here to here? Nope, other way? Yeah. And then this one? Yes, okay, good, all right. Now, this one to here. So that part of the trace is good to here. That part of the trace is good. Now we'll go here. Good. So that's, our repair is successful. And I think we should be good, somewhat future-proof that. So that's what you want to have as an end result here. Of course, it's going to be wobbly because the traces are lifted. Once I glue them back in place and glue them down, it should be better. So, but anyway, that's what you want. So, all right. So I'm going to do the cap kit and the reflow on the main board, Same thing on the neck board. Then we'll get this all ready for testing. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the exact same thing you saw me do to this one, to the other 7500, so we can test them both in congruency, one and the other, in the interest of time. Everything you just saw me do to this one, I'll do to that one, and of course the cap kit and reflow stuff. So let me get all the rework done, and we'll get to a point to where we are ready for testing. And I will take, well, you know what, I say that now. I don't think we actually tested the HOT on this. Let's see if the HOT is shorted. It is not. Okay, so we can leave that one in there and just see what happens. So yeah, let me get all the rework done on both of these, get to a point to where we can test them. I'll come back, make sure I'll glue that back in place. You can see that from bad shipping, this is what you get. So, yep, I'll get all the rework done, and I'll come back, we'll get these tested and see how they work. Well, there we go. Both chassis now completely gone through, reflowed, rebuilt, cleaned up, everything, you name it. So we already had this one complete, and I did go ahead and glue the linearity coil back together. I did fix that one trace up here that was broken off that 250 volt 1 microfarad cap. I got this all cleaned up and looking good. Everything reflowed and done. And of course, full cap kit, neck board rebuild, and everything as we saw. Now, the second one here did have some issues. Again, I went ahead and did everything that I did to this one. Rebuild, reflow, clean up, all that jazz, full cap kit, everything mentioned. This neck board actually was in much better shape. This transistor has been replaced. It was obvious that it had been replaced. These two originals, so I went ahead and got all the rework done on the neck board for this one as well. But the couple things here, the R104 was completely open. R104 was completely open. And it's right here. I did have to put a replacement R104 in there. And if we check this R104, touch our leads together, 0.1. We touch our resistor, should be 10 K ohm, and we get nothing. Absolutely nothing. So R104 completely open. And then we had this resistor here, which is R728. This resistor here was white. It had got so hot that it had turned white. This is what it used to look like. And this is what it looks like now. So it had got burned up. However, what's interesting is that it's supposed to be a 1.1 K ohm resistor. And would you believe it, even though it got all white like this and burned up, it's still 1.1 K. If I check the replacement one that I put in there, it's also 1.1 K, give or take. So yeah, I'm not sure how this could really be reading correctly, but it needed to be replaced. So I replaced that. So with R104 and R728 replaced, I think that was the only real issues I found. Now R728 goes directly to the horizontal deflection transformer here. This, not deflection, I'm sorry, horizontal, gosh, I forgot, it's drive. Oh, the horizontal drive transformer. One leg goes directly to the horizontal drive transformer. The other one runs through C121 and goes through the horizontal circuit. But you can clearly see here how burned up this got. This trace was all burned up. This trace is all burned up. The actual, well, the traces themselves aren't in bad shape. I had to fix all that. But I should say on the top side, you can see evidence of it burning up. And it runs right here to C121. But C121 checks okay. So does C122. There were no other anomalies except for the open R104 and the bad, well, not, it didn't read bad, but I think probably in circuit it would have failed R728. Everything else was good. So I think it did pass light bulb test, got the pot glue cracked off just like we did on the other one. It got it set to 118.5. So it should be closer to 117 with the actual CRT. And it's time to test these. I think since this one here is complete, we'll just start with this one and see what happens. If that's all good and everything works okay, then we'll move on to this other one here that had the really bad neckboard rework and the replacement U701. I'm nervous about this one because U701's in the socket and it's missing the remote board, and just with all the work that had been done, I'm worried about this one giving us issues. But We'll find out, but I think we're going to start with the one that's complete first. So I'm going to get a tube and we'll plug this in and we will see if this one works without any problems. All right, so we are all hooked up here on our dedicated K7500 tube and yoke. And as you can see here, it clearly says replaced with K7500 chassis only. So we have that set up and ready to go. I have my meter here set up and ready to read our B+. The B+ test point is right there in front of that cap. There's a little test point there, and grounding can go right to the frame of the vertical IC there. So let's turn this on, just make sure it works and see where our B+ is at, and then we'll worry about what the image looks like after we verify that's all good. So let's cross our fingers. Hopefully this first one here works without any problems. I did also set all the color pots to the 25% and the 50% like I talked about when we worked on the first chassis. So that's all done. All right, so here we go. 1, 2, 3. Okay, yes, it does work. And if anything, looks like the picture tube uses less, because I put this to 118.5 like the first one. Oh, interesting. The picture tube uses slightly about 1 volt less than what the light bulb uses. But anyway, okay, B+ is okay for now. And we do have a picture, and it does appear to be working. Let's go to 1 and see if I can get this in here. There we go. And it's out of focus, which is no problem. We'll simply adjust that. And looks like about there is as good as it's going to get. No problem, but it seems okay. Colors look pretty good right out of the gate at that optimum setting. Let's turn brightness. Oh, brightness and contrast are all the way down. Okay, well, okay. Well, let's turn our screen pot down then to roughly there. And let's set our our focus on this screen. Okay, that looks pretty good for focus. Okay, now brightness up till the background's not black, and then back down till it just is black. Turn up contrast. Oh, too much. Okay, so we're going to have to turn our screen pot back up a little bit, because brightness, we'll put it there. Screen pot up a little more, roughly there. And hey, that's not bad. All right. Got to do vertical position, make sure that works. Yep, that's good. Now we'll go to the size, that's good. Each position, slide that over. Do we have width control? I know we have width, but do we have control? Yes, we do. Well, okay. It looks like our first repair is successful. So now we need to grab that other chassis and put it on this tube and see how that one turns out. All right, so the first chassis we worked on that I'm a little nervous about is now hooked up and ready to go. Everything's connected, including our width control transistor. We're ready to read B+, everything just like the one we just tested. So let's cross our fingers. Hopefully everything here works just fine, and see what we get. 1, 2, 3. Oh, 75 volts for B+. That wasn't good. Of course, it doesn't work. Let me try that again here. See if we can get that noise on camera here. Oh, yeah, 69. I had my hand up against the side of the tube here and got a little zap. Something is very wrong here. Let's try again. 1, 2, 3. Oh, yeah, I don't want to leave it running. It sounds like something is sizzling. 1, 2, 3. Oh, yeah, something's very bad. It's got to be the flyback, because we're getting B+, and it's not ticking, so the HOT is okay, the power supply is okay. It's got to be that flyback. Yeah, because the video B plus, the video B plus is TP. Well, it's our video B plus. Let's go to video B plus. This TP 203 right there. It's normally about 140-ish volts when it's running and operating, but let's see what we get now. 1, 2, 3. 70, yeah, something. Yeah, the flyback outputs video B plus directly through that 250 volt 10 cap straight to that test point, and we're only getting 75 volts. It's got to be that flyback with that noise it's making and the fact that video B plus is low. Let me change that flyback out just to rule it out, and I'll come back and see what we get. All right, so the flyback has been replaced. This is the box I had the replacement in. Here is the original one that I just took out, and it actually turns out that I had a spare original stock flyback. I must have taken it out of another chassis thinking that the flyback was faulty. I put a replacement in there, a new one, didn't fix the problem. I just left it in there, and I put the original factory one back in the box. So I was able to put in an original factory known good flyback, and which I actually kind of prefer, because with the condition and the quality of the new replacement flybacks being what they are, I'd much rather have an original factory one in there. So it's a replacement one in there. This is the one that was in there, and we're going to test this and see if the flyback was the problem. I'm pretty sure that it was, and we are set up to read our B+. There's still some residual voltage trickling down from when we had it on, powered on before. Oh, and I realize now that I forgot to reconnect my video. All right, but everything else still should be connected. We have our width control transistor, anode, neck, yoke, ground, power. No power. Get a little ahead of myself here from time to time. Okay. Now, this should work, hopefully, if my hypothesis of the flyback being bad is the cause. So we're hoping this turns on. If it does, our B plus is good. I haven't preemptively set it, turned it back down, because the other one was a little bit high. And then also we're checking to make sure we have all of our colors and everything works the way it's supposed to. So fingers crossed it works now with this replacement flyback. So here we go. 1, 2, 3. Yep. What do you know? And 118.9. So yeah, it looks like the light bulb's actually, I need to start setting the light bulb setting on the B plus on this to 116.5, because I guess it's 1 voltage lower. I thought it was higher, but it's lower. And we do have a picture, but we need to make some adjustments here, obviously. Let's go to 1. There we go. All right. Now, vertical hold. Hey, okay, good. Whew. With that U701 being replaced, I'm always nervous about this. Now, why don't we have any width, though? We have no width control. The transistor is connected. Let's start with contrast and brightness. We have no brightness control either. Why is it always difficult? We'll turn our screen pot up. So there's the screen pot up. You can see the retrace lines here. Maybe you can't. But if I brightness, no brightness control. This is the same exact remote board we just used on the other chassis. So brightness, no control. Contrast, we have plenty of contrast control, but no brightness control, no width control, even though our transistor is plugged in. We have horizontal position. We know vertical hold works. We have height. We have vertical position. So we have no brightness control and no horizontal width control. Well, that's fantastic. Is my transistor even getting warm? No, it's cold as ice. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Oh, okay, just a bad connection on my width transistor. Oh, okay. Oh, the wires. Okay, so the wires on this connector are loose. I'm going to have to fix these wires. But, okay, stay there. All right. Width control. Yes. Okay. Now we just need to tackle... Oh, and I have brightness, too. No, that's contrast. Hold on. Okay. So now we just have an issue of... No, I need to fix the wires on this red connector for our width control transistor. And I need to troubleshoot this no brightness issue. So let me get that tackled. And I'll come back and I'll give you a report of what I found. All right, so I found two shorted diodes. These two diodes right there, D803 and D807, those two Zeners, you got that resistor right there, and those two diodes right there. We're both dead short, and they are chilling right there. So that other chassis, or this other chassis, had a bad R104 and a bad R83, I think it was. This one had those two shorted diodes, a bad flyback, and some bad rework on the neck board. Assuming this works, I haven't tested it yet. And we got our, I did turn the B plus down before I shut the camera off last time to about 117.5, so it should be somewhere around there now. So hopefully now we have our brightness circuit back, and that should be the last thing to tackle here. So let's turn this on, fingers crossed, and see if it works. 1, 2, 3. And yes, 117, that's good. And let's, oh, I forgot. I did re-terminate the red wire. The red wire was actually stretched out and barely making contact. I pulled on it and it came right off. So I had to re-terminate the red wire into the connector. Let me get the transistor connected and see what we get here. But first, let's make sure we have our brightness control. Yes, not much, but it's there. Should have more control than that, but it does work. And we don't have raster lines. If we turn the flyback up slightly, now let's try our brightness pot. It does work, but ever so slightly, but I'll consider it okay. So if we turn our flyback back down to roughly there, let's try, I wonder if it has to do with that black wire. I see how the left side of the screen is darker than the right. That could be it. This flyback could be faulty. Yeah, see, there's our brightness. Brightness is working now, but let me plug my width transistor back in. 1, 2, 3. Okay, yeah, that's good. Now let's see if I can control the width. I sure can. And H position, slide that over. Yep, so that's good. And it seems okay. Let's adjust our focus. Yep, that's pretty good. Good enough anyway. So it is working, but it's interesting how the right side of the screen is brighter than the left side of the screen. And I'm wondering if that has to do with that black wire. There's a black wire that wraps around the ferrite core of the flyback, and I just wonder if that is the cause of our problem. I'm going to turn this off, and I'm going to desolder one end of that wire here. Let me see. I don't think that that's going to be the fix, but I think this problem is this replacement flyback. Even though it's good, I think that's going to be the cause of our brightness. I'm going to turn it back on. 1, 2, 3. And I bet it didn't fix anything. No. It's still brighter over here on the right than the left. But I mean, it's fixed and working. Well, this may be, oh, wait a minute. This might just be some degaussing issue. Oh, but I have much more brightness control now. Okay. So, yeah, I have much more brightness control now. So here's up, down. Oh, yeah, that's much better. Okay, so, yeah, I'm going to take that black wire off the ferrite core around the, just remove it completely. But I think this is a degauss issue over here. It's not actually brighter. I think it was brighter, but after taking that wire off, this looks much better now. It's too red, but otherwise, oh man, that's looking good. In person, it looks great. In camera, it never looks great in camera, through the camera. But in person, it looks great. I don't have any way to go to a red screen. Let's grab the TPG here. And let's plug in the TPG. Medium res on, okay. I went too far, you dingle nut. There, okay, yeah, it's a degauss issue. So let's move our H position over. There we go. And let's see if I can adjust the width a bit more. That's good. Now let's grab our degaussing wand, better known as a speaker, and let's degauss this here. Done. Oh man. So now let's see if I can get cruising back on. I'll disconnect this, plug the cruising board back in, and turn our brightness back down. Yeah, I gotta turn the fly back down. Now brightness roughly there. Yeah, it's looking good. H position back over. Yeah. And I must say that's not bad. In person, I wish you could see it in person because it looks really good in person. It's just, I don't know. Anyway, there we go. So and right now our B plus is at 116.7, and it fluctuates depending on what's on the screen. You can see here 116.7, 16.8, 16.9, 17.3. So you're never going to get it perfect, but that's good. Okay, I'm happy with the results on these, and like I said, I'll get that K7000 fixed off camera because I have to wait on the flyback and order some more parts and stuff. But I'm going to consider this Repair-A-Thon a success. So hopefully you learned something. I really appreciate you watching. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Comment and say what you think. And I have a U5000 down here on the floor off camera that has a whole corner busted off of it. So we're going to try and fix that next on the channel. So stay tuned. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.